What is up, guys, and welcome here to Town Hall Heroes, episode number 56. I'm Solid Jake. Jared's making faces, and, well, we are here with two beautiful guests today. Going down the line, starting with Mr. Blizz Johnsy. What's up, John?
Mr. Blizz, that's my first name. Hey, how's it going?
So, if anyone is new to you, this is, in fact, your second appearance, but why don't you just give a brief introduction as to who you are and what you do at Blizzard?
Right. I'm a technical designer. I work on the Heroes team, obviously. So I do a lot of hero design, hero implementation. I work with pretty much every department that there is to work with and trying to pump out a great game. Last time I was here, I made a fool of myself, but you guys were kind enough to invite me back, so thank you very much. I really like being on the show, and I like talking about heroes.
Made a fool of yourself? What are you talking about? I think you were one of our best guests.
I think I droned on and on, so you guys have that to look forward to, I guess.
I remember
You're
being...
probably the second best guest next to me.
Next to you?
I was about to say.
Yeah.
All right, well, moving down the line, Kev, what is new with you?
Not too much. Had an exciting long weekend of Titan Arena, so that was pretty awesome. Jake, of course, you were co-casting, so that was awesome that we did all weekend. And then just been climbing a bunch and playing Heroes. That's about it. Had to play StarCraft last night for a little bit and found out
saw that you
I'm
on it.
better than a gold league. So
Good.
It's about all I learned last night.
Well, Chef, you've also been experienced with StarCraft 2 at one point in time. What's new with you?
Not much. Been doing a lot of bike riding, playing Heroes, watching Heroes.
Motorcycles or bicycles?
No, just bicycling.
Okay.
Just bicycling around. Been listening to EMT stuff while I do it. I was hoping to go to EMT school in the summer.
Oh, nice. All right, last but not least, Mr. Zoloff, the Lord of the Tempo.
Not much, man. We unfortunately took third place this weekend in Titan Arena 2.
Wrecked.
Had a Series 1 and then proceeded to throw back to back to back. And that was not fun. But we learned from it, come back strong. We released a video this week. I'm posting in chat right now. We released a video of our comms of a scrim versus Vortex. They're kind enough to let us record some of our scrims, and community's been asking to hear what our comms sound like, so hope you guys enjoy that. Also releasing a video probably tomorrow. Arthalon is going to be breaking down the patch notes and his thoughts on it, so the same YouTube channel I'm linking right now, you can subscribe and you can see when Arthalon uploads that video. Also be on Reddit and stuff, but yeah, it's just been a busy Heroes week, man.
A busy week indeed, as it is in fact patch week. And now you mentioned the tournament that happened the past weekend. We'll get to the esports recap a bit later, but I think the big juicy stuff is in fact, well, the Sylvanas patch and how big of a patch it really is. Now, we got a new hero, we got a new map, but it's far more than that. We got Team League, we got all of the new user interface stuff, and actually let me boot up the client. I hope it's not too loud. We're going to get sound effects to all the viewers. I'm warning you right now. So, brace yourselves. Chef, you can't hear it. It's okay.
Okay.
And it's loading. Now, while that loads up, of all the things that have been changed in the game, let's start with Kev. What's your favorite thing?
The entire UI, like all the 3D and everything, just looks so crisp and clean. Oh my god, it's just like an entirely new experience. At any time, like the music of just normal Heroes comes in, plus the UI changes and all the like the folding tiles in the background, it's like, bow, and I was just, oh, it's so good. That's it. I'm very much for the immersion.
Dude, Jake, did you know the candles behind Sylvanas?
Oh, yeah.
You can blow them out. Isn't that the coolest thing?
It is. Like, all these little things just are so nice. And the fact that this splash page in general, I got all giddy like a little girl when I first saw this splash page. Because before we had, like, the image, like the artwork, and that was cool, but this is like, you know, a living, breathing environment. And yeah, the candles go out. There's no other things. I clicked everywhere. There's nothing else that works. But I was like, oh, what else can I find? I'm like, oh, it's a triangle. This clearly has significance, right? No, does not. But awesome. Well, you know, let's just jump right in. Let's talk about Sylvanas. Now, she is in fact the embodiment of Christmas. If you don't get the joke, I'm sorry. But
She brings presents as long as you You wanted death.
Yeah. Death, presence, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. Good. Good. Great. We're all on the same page. Now, John, as someone that works on actual hero design, how challenging was it creating someone like Sylvanas and not having her be identical to a lot of the other like archers in the game, like Vala or even Tyrande?
Actually, it was quite a challenge. So I talked about this a little bit at BlizzCon because, like you said, differentiating her from Vala and Tyrande was our number one priority. And that's kind of how we pushed her towards a specialist role, although we'll get to that in a minute on why that might be a bit of a misnomer. And it was also quite a challenge to capture something more than just shooty archerness, right? Like I think Vala does that pretty well. So we wanted to do something that is way more Sylvanas, and we had to figure out what exactly that was, because people have such a love for Sylvanas. There's such a huge fan following, and I'm caught up in it too. I love Sylvanas, but actually nailing down what she does in other games and why that's important, like what are the best nuggets that we can bring to our game was kind of a journey. She took a long time, and there was a lot of abilities that we threw out.
Can you tell us about some of the abilities that existed in her kit that we don't see today?
So she used to summon skeletons. So she used to have her black arrow that she had in War 3 in Frozen Throne, where if you killed a minion, then it would turn into a skeleton, and then at first they just pushed down the lane, and then we had a version where they sort of followed you around like bodyguards, like Arthas's ghouls did.
Huh.
We tried a thing where she, if you guys remember way back, Arthas used to, when he killed an enemy hero, then their shade would come up and then march down the other lane. We tried giving her that instead, but that didn't work out. And I think the guys might kill me for saying this, but like I think the biggest ability that we had to cut was actually possessing an enemy hero.
Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah. But we did give it a try. It was insane.
Was it like a level 20 upgrade or?
It was actually her trait.
What?
That's insane. But
Yeah.
that's
it was
cool.
yeah, it was neat. I tried working really hard to get it to work. From a technical perspective, from a design perspective, like, is this fun? Are we communicating this well? We really did our best to try to get it in the game, but eventually, like, the cons just far outweighed what it was gaining us. But it was a good experience, and like that's what we try to do. Like we're trying to really nail down like how insane can we go with these heroes, and then it was after that we sort of landed on, well, what if she was just really, really mean to minions, and she stunned the crap out of everything, she shut down towers? Like, is that insane? And we're like, whoa, really? That'll throw all of our balance out the window, and maybe it has, but we'll see that in the next couple of weeks, I imagine.
I love that you're trying new things like that, and like it's so crazy that it just might work, right? I love that idea with gaming.
Actually, I think it kind of follows her lore pretty well too. Like when I saw like that she was, because I watched that. We mentioned it during the pre-show. I watched the Sylvanas lore video, and one of her first interactions with Arthas after she's turned undead, she stuns him. She gives him like this poison that was designed specifically for him. And I
Yeah.
was like, after I saw that, I was like, okay, that's why they gave her that passive trait, and it fits really well with how she is in Warcraft 3.
Yep. We took every little bit that we could find, because there was actually a pitch. This was way back. This was back. There's kind of several incarnations in. There were several pitches for Sylvanas, and like way back in BlizzCon, like 2010 or something like that.
my
I can't remember
goodness.
exactly. Like Sylvanas was actually shown at like the first BlizzCon back when it was
StarCraft
back
mod.
when it was yeah.
Yeah. When it
And
was-
she had like a trap that silenced people, and she had a what is now her wailing arrow, except it was called Shadow Blast, and it dealt AOE damage, and it actually blackened people's screens, kind of like a flashbang in Counter-Strike. And then after that, like we had to go back to the drawing board for several reasons. We wanted to reboot her, and then there was a pitch for like, well, what if she was the poison hero, right? Like she's got this Royal Apothecary Society thing going on. She poisons Arthas. Maybe she's the dot hero. Maybe she can stack dots and then like rip them off of you and deal lots of damage. And so we tried a lot of different stuff.
That's really cool to think that you guys have actually. I guess we just think of a hero, we take it for granted as like this is how the hero's kit is, and that's law, that's the hero. But I can't even imagine how many different abilities and concepts and iterations all these, because you guys are working with properties that are, already exist. You're not designing from scratch necessarily, so that's kind of the beauty of the game, I think.
Well, it depends on the hero, right? Like,
Well, that's true.
Yeah, like I think the Diablo heroes, for example, might come together a little bit easier because we have a finer understanding of the mechanics and like the role that we think they might pursue. But Sylvanas was one where we were looking at her kit in War 3 and we're like, kinda, like she has this life drain. She's got I can't remember the third ability. She had Black Arrow, she had life drain, and there was a third, I can't remember.
Was Black Arrow the silence? Because I know she had a silence.
The Black Arrow was the one that turned dudes into skeletons.
Okay.
And it wasn't. I don't think it was remarkable enough that we, were really adhered to it like we would be adhered to Jaina, for example. Like Jaina was a slam dunk. She was basically one and done. We're like, okay, Frost Mage. I know what a Frost Mage does. Now we found a cool mechanic to bring around it, and then she really came together. But some heroes, they require a lot more iteration time.
Can you talk at all about how you go into balancing these hero abilities? Do you have internal tests?
Oh yeah.
Amongst, like, how much, like, statistically do you do? If I could ask for any sort of numbers on that, like a statistic sort of geek on that.
Well, whenever we're balancing, we start balancing immediately, like as we're working on the hero, right? Because we want to get a pretty clear idea of where the power should be. Like, Stitch's hook is a good example, right? That there's a lot of power in that. It's a big moment there, so we need to make sure that it's still powerful. It still feels mighty when it hits. Or, oh man, a lot of examples that are coming to mind are the ones that are fresh in my mind, which are stuff that's not live yet. So I just have to hold my tongue. But yeah, we start balancing right away. We start balancing these core abilities. We work on talents. We start doing a little bit of balance on those. But I think the balance designers are well aware that a lot of this stuff is always subject to change, right? It's just the nature of. So we can never really nail it down until a significant amount of time into the project, and then we're like, okay, we're really happy with where we are. We're really happy with this set of talents and this core kit. It's time to hand it off to art and sound and work with them to try to get the feel of the hero down. And that's really when balance really ticks it up and sees exactly what numbers they can mess with. And then we work with them a lot on like good talents that we can balance around or we can't balance around and maybe need to change and rework. And then ultimately, and this is I think something that I've learned certainly since I've been working on this project is we don't know the final word on balance until it goes out to the community and they have a chance to break it and see it in team comps, really professional teams that money is on the line and we see where the balance plays out there. But we do our best. We play the heroes a lot. We play every day, and they always have balance notes, and we constantly try to iterate on that.
Like Taste for Blood, for instance.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to that a little bit later. That's a different hero.
That's a great example. We can talk about that, too. I'd be happy.
Well, let's just keep on the topic of Sylvanas for a little bit. So one thing that Sylvanas has, and you're talking about balance and keeping that in check, and especially when it goes out to the community, she is, I believe, she is the second hero to have a silence in the game. Once upon a time, Illidan did, and we have Twilight Dream on Malfurion. Now she has the silence. Is there a core goal in terms of how silence functions? compared to how a stun functions, and how is that decision made?
I think the reason why we don't see as many silences as we do stuns in our game is silences are somewhat harder to read than stuns are, because stuns you can't move and you can't actually do anything. So you're like, I'm unresponsive. What happened? Oh, I'm stunned. Whereas silence, you're allowed to move around, but none of your abilities work. So there's a little bit more of that sort of. You have to know the game a little bit more in order to show that, or in order to understand what's happening. So that's why we try to use them sparingly.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think.
Makes sense.
And I guess you could count Brightwing's polymorph as silence too, in a way. It also takes away your weapon. So we have a big, we have a good amount of them. So we try to keep them like. So far we've kept
would
it
do
on.
too. Like Brightwing's R. Like if you're stuck in the R, it's like the same
for
deal.
sure.
You can't do anything, but it looks like you can move.
Because you're being in the displacement.
For sure.
But even then, like silence is generally like, you know, you see the attack and you see the hit, but then all of a sudden you're like, oh, my abilities aren't going off. I think with Brightwings, Polymorph, and Emerald Wind, like you see something pushing you or
Yes.
moving you, or you're a pig.
Exactly.
So I can see why silence is a little bit of a difficult topic to kind of hit without putting a giant like dot bubble over your head.
Yeah,
That really
and even
kind of
then,
shows it. Yeah.
The sound effect helps
I think,
a lot.
I think, yeah, we
Yeah.
worked with the sound guys, try to do some creative things of toning down, and we would like to do more UI work if it comes to that. If we decide that we really need some more salesmanship on getting the silence across. I think that's why.
George.
No, that is cool.
Yep, you noticed that one, right?
Hard not to.
Hardest
Yeah,
had
it
a
looks
great
pretty
time
gorgeous.
working on that. Oh.
Why?
Yeah, this is happening, guys.
They're back in full force.
Did you plan this like with Jared?
No, I would
No.
never be down for something like this.
Because you
No.
said you said you had a bunch of puns ready, or is
No,
that just
I didn't have any puns ready at all,
okay?
but they're just brewing in my head.
I want to talk about Sylvanas' Q.
All right.
Why'd you have to make it like Lily's Q? Why does it have to just go at stuff?
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that actually. It's something that there's the gorge.
Did you guys see what they did for an
afterwards-
Uber X? It's a blast. Sorry, continue.
Web blast.
After I think between Lily's queue and Sylvanas' queue, I don't know if we'll be doing abilities like that in the near future, because they do have some problems with them. But it does get us some neat gameplay in some ways, where
Yeah.
it's all about positioning. And Sylvanas is very much sort of you're poking, and then when it's time to go ham, then you want to get close, you want to unload the queue, and then try to chase them down with your E.
Yeah, I find it refreshing because it's so different, and like there's certain builds I've found. I've just messing around. I did a 20-hour stream yesterday where I played almost exclusively Sylvanas, so I've tried as many different builds as I could, and some of them where you can just get ridiculous amounts of charges on the queue. I'm just mashing that key, and it's fun.
I think that's why we decided to have it not targetable in the first place and be more like Lily's Q, is because we really wanted to chase that feeling, that mechanical feeling of you just mashing a button. And we constantly got feedback of like, wow, this is really fun. We went back and forth on how many charges it had. Like once it had 3 and once it had like 10.
Oh, jeez.
And we were trying to gauge a point where, how it's really fun to just press this button, and we wanted to.
Do you intentionally
can make
try
it
and
work.
balance it stronger, like than the other heroes around it early on? Like right when it's released?
Right when we released a hero,
Yeah, is it the game for it to be like popular so everyone will play it because it's stronger than the rest by some amounts?
no, we don't intentionally make a hero stronger
Okay.
on release. It's hard. It's a hard thing to gauge. We're trying to make it as balanced as possible. It's hard to. I think with Sylvanas, like we don't really have a problem with like, hey, try this hero. Some
Yeah, she'll be popular
so
enough.
people are going to play it, and then we'll get balance feedback on it. Some cases actually we go, please don't make this like for the Lost Vikings. We were constantly like, try to undertune this a little bit because the playtesting that we're getting is not accurate to the playtesting that a StarCraft Pro is going to control these guys with, right?
True.
So just imagine what they're doing, and then do about 80% or something like that. I'm not sure exactly, but we should be brave and like trusting the community for certain weird heroes that it's going to get out of hand because the community has so much more time to practice and play with teams than we do. So we got to make the game.
Right.
Tragedy. Well, are any other? Okay.
Possession.
Yes. Possession. So when it comes to possession, it's a very unique ability. Now, when I played with, I've only used it 2 or 3 games. I actually think I won all of them, which is a good stat. But it doesn't really seem all that impactful until level 20.
I can see Jared has opinions.
Jake won at like rank 40 league.
Yeah, that's
Totally.
nothing, obviously.
It does not have the impact that Wailing Arrow is. That Wailing Arrow has. There's no denying that for sure. I think that. So part of the reason why we wanted to put possession in there is because we feel like that's really staying true to her fantasy, and it is something that we haven't tried before. And maybe it is a little undertuned because a mechanic like that is really scary for a lot of people. It's actually screwing with the core, the way the game works in a pretty fundamental way. Like we have this amount of minions and you have that amount of minions, and then the way that you clear it is you kill them, right? Not turn them over to your side. So I think there's a little trepidation of how powerful can we make that ability. In fact, like it used to be that mercs could be captured baseline, for example, but that really made a lot of people mad, as you might imagine. Like, what? We spent all that time getting merc camp, and now she just took it from us. That made it really powerful. So we still might be homing in on the balance of that ability. It won't be as impactful in the team fight moment that I think Heroes is often defined by, but we also like designing abilities and talents for different kinds of players, and I think that this is definitely one where, speaking for myself, I really enjoy playing with it.
Yeah.
And it's not more powerful than nailing somebody with a Wailing Arrow, but I think that there are strategies out there that can make the most of it, and it's actually really cool to see a massive wave of your own minions going by, and it does pretty neat things on defense when you can just shut down people's catapults, for example, or late game merc camps. But we'll see.
Did you guys ever test trying it on like the idea of stealing an Hydralisk from Zagara or anything like that, or is that too unfun?
We had thought about it, but with summons typically have a timed life, like they're going to die anyway. So capturing a Hydralisk that has like a couple seconds left on it, it's hard to gauge how much value you actually got out of that. Whereas when you capture something that's going to last forever, like a minion or a merc, then you know how far they're going to go. They have to be killed at some point. Yeah, so I think that's why we made that decision. But it's a neat idea.
Yeah, okay. All right, so running through her kit, the W, that spreads all over everything. And it's crazy. Like, it's actually just chains from one enemy to the next. Like, I go out of my way to throw it on one tower because I know it's going to do the entire wall. I mean, this is a very unique kind of dot. It makes me think of playing a Death Knight in World of Warcraft where you have Pestilence and you can just spread that all over everything. Were there, like, inspirations for that?
We really wanted... So... I can't remember where it started, actually, where that dot started from. And we knew it wanted to spread and used to spread to just one target at a time. We wanted to make the dot basically more interesting than I poke you with a dot and then you get taken a little bit of damage over time. Dots are really hard to make feel epic. My English fell down, but that's what I'm going to go ahead and finish that sentence. Damage over time is hard to it's hard to make it impactful, kind of, because you could just take all the damage that was in that dot and put it up front, and then you're like, bam, I just nailed you, instead of
Right.
like, oh, you're kind of getting damage. So we wanted to show that in a different way, and seeing it spread through an entire minion wave, or seeing it spread across the walls, is like, you could really see sort of this dark energy kind of vibe coming from the ability. And
Sneaky evil.
Yeah, exactly. And it spreads her trait, so it could sort of shut down a minion wave for a short amount of time. So we found like that was a really neat way to make it feel epic, and to do a dot in an interesting way, and to sort of set up her some of the talents that we were having in mind.
Jared, Kev, Sean, any comments about Sylvanas before we move on?
No, I think she feels like really.
She's so fun.
She's really fun, like super
means a
fun.
lot to me.
She feels really like energetic, like already, like she just feels like Sylvanas in a lot of ways. She feels like she's got everything. So I think you guys absolutely destroyed her on that side. I mean, right now she just feels really strong in solo queue, but I feel like that's a lot of heroes that come out when they come out in solo queue, because not many people understand how to deal with them. But yeah, I think so far, like, she feels absolutely awesome in terms of like play style. And
Thanks.
stop making her dizzy, Jay. That's just me.
Yeah, I think you did a great job designing her too. Really fun class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't your job, but let's just appreciate the skins really quickly. Oh my goodness.
Right?
They're so
Right?
good. Like all the different skins and tints. I'm gonna use this one a lot very soon. And
I like the red one.
Yeah, the red one's
this
sick.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah, that one's sick.
that one's sick.
See, that's what Kubi
On
would
my
say,
level-
but I have to hate.
level 10 Sylvanas.
I'm all about this one because she's got like a Ninja Turtle eye band on.
And then
Yeah,
she
the
goes
art-
Blood Elf again.
Our team just nails it, knocks
It's
it
so
apart every time, and it
Yeah.
blows my mind, because we're prototyping the hero, and we're putting in the talents, and we're like, yeah, this is pretty fun, this could really be awesome. And then Art gets their hands on it, and it's another hero when it comes back to us. We just sort of have this pipeline where we send it off, and we work with the artists, and we're constantly playtesting it. But then there comes a day where it's like, okay, it's time to put all this new art in, and then suddenly everybody on the design team wants to drop what they're doing and play that new hero again, right? And they did an awesome job for sure.
So before it goes off to art, like, what does the character model look like? Because right now I'm imagining like a little stick figure with like little like elf ears, and that's just what you're working with, and just hoping that.
For Sylvanas' case, we had like an ancient Sylvanas piece of art that was from StarCraft mod.
Oh wow!
Heroes. So we were using that, but whenever we're doing we used to have all the War 3 assets in our build, so we still use those sometimes for
That's awesome.
some of our heroes. Yeah, like the Dragon Knight used to be a what's his name? Oh, what's his name? How am I blanking on this? The Tauren guy. The
Karen?
not Karen, but that hero, right?
Oh, wow.
The war,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
blood of guy.
Tauren
Yeah.
chieftain, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, the Tauren
That's
chieftain.
funny.
With the big hammer.
Yeah.
That's
He
great.
was like kicking around buildings with his with this big axe. So yeah. So
That's awesome.
yeah, whatever we can find, whatever sort of gets as close as we can to the sort of epicness that we want to feel. Obviously, we're not going to put, Chen in for Sylvanas and like, hey, it's Sylvanas. No, it's a panda. So.
Well, before we move away from Sylvanas, I just want to shout out to the art team for making special tints that work really well with mounts that we don't see very often. I'm all about fashion when it comes to competitive matches, and the synergy you get with that Cyberwolf and this tint. That's the only skin in the game that matches with that mount. Well done, well done. All right, moving on.
Map time.
Spider Queen, yes, Tomb of the Spider Queen. Just take it away, John. Can you just explain basically the the map to anyone that doesn't know it?
So Tomb was being prototyped when Sky Temple. We were feeling pretty good about Sky Temple, so they came pretty close to one another, and we really wanted to make a map that differentiated greatly from Sky Temple. Sky Temple is really big. It's very open. It's all about the team fights and controlling these zones of power. And for Tomb, we took it in an entirely different direction, where it's almost about farming. It's about spreading your team out and trying to gather as many of these crystal things as you can, and then getting a coordinated effort to turn them in, and then push all of the lanes, or as many of the lanes as possible as you can. And so it's very much about laning, whereas Sky Temple is very much about holding an area that's not a town that leads to team fights. That's the general overview of Tomb of the Spider Queen. And I'm having a lot of fun on it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Chef, I know you have questions about the map. I will let you take it away.
Well, I just have infinite questions involving maps in general. So you said you designed heroes, right? I didn't get to ask you earlier, but do you also help design maps?
I used to.
Used to?
Yeah. I was involved in the design of the earlier maps, Cursed Hollow, Black Hearts, Mines, and Garden. But for Sky Temple, and I had moved more fully onto heroes.
Okay.
So I can share our sentiments because I've seen the map evolve and grow. That would be John DeShazer, Meng Song, Kyle Dates, and Paul Tessman. Shoutouts right there to our map team working hard on maps.
They're
They've
doing
done
a good job.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I really love the look of it. I played with someone today who said the new map looked very Disney-esque, just because like things were flying down from the sky and fighting for you. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to ask was something I guess we've talked about a little bit, is that players will eventually get to make their own maps. Do we have any more ideas on like if they'll be able to make an entire map, if like any of these tools that you use to make maps will be available to people?
Sheesh. I don't really have any information about that, unfortunately.
Okay. Figured I'd ask.
I wish I could talk more about it, but one of our initial goals is to try to get the game nailed down, and maps is definitely a part of that. If we released a modding tool now, or if we released it like at the time that Blizzard or that Heroes of the Storm was being initially released, then we were imagining horror scenarios of like, oh, they would just make typical 3-lane map that you would see in Dota, and we didn't want to do that. We wanted to really show people that the maps are very much a part of the game, and they're very much that dictate the flow and the play of the game as much as the heroes do, and what you do to augment those heroes, right?
Yeah. Can you talk at all about how you balance a map? Like, is there any like?
Sure.
I know there's a lot to it.
Well, we want to make sure that a map, right off the top of my head, I guess we want to make sure that each of our maps is going to have a map mechanic about it, right? Some sort of event that you can take part in. You can always push down towns, and you can always, well, I say always, but you never know. Maybe we'll make one without without merc camps. You can always take merc camps, right? So, but there's always this mechanic, and we want to make sure that the mechanic is not too weak. If you guys remember the mechanic in Underground or in Haunted Mines, for a while it was just not worth it to go down there.
Oh
because
yeah,
you
no
could
one
just
would go
take
in
all
mines.
the camps.
Yeah, mercs
Right.
are way better. The knights in the current iteration, they were godlike.
Right. So we want to make sure we don't have a situation like that where nobody wants to engage with the cool part of the map, but we also don't want to have a situation where if you get that first mechanic, then it's just over.
Yeah.
And it's going to snowball from there. So that is, I think, the biggest balance concern every time that we're testing the map is like, is this too snowbally, or do I not feel like I should be engaging with this in order to win? Or is it just not fun to engage with? Like, I know I can win, but like it's really boring. Things like that.
So, speaking about the map and something that I thought was going to be really snowbally initially, and I'm just curious if there's been previous iterations, but the gems and the way the gems work. were they always color coded, or did you find that if you could just steal the enemy's gems, it was actually just spun out of control?
They were always color coded.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I think they identified that really early before the map was more widely play tested. Was we can't have you taking all of the gems in a wave or in 2 waves. Yeah.
So, one thing that I love about the variety of maps and heroes is the fact that the tier list, when it comes to the actual heroes in the game, fluctuates based on the map. And with these really close quarters places, like this map you guys introduced, Tomb of the Spider's Queen, each and every little merc camp, like where you're picking up those bruisers, you're in a little pit, and all it takes is Sonya to heroic leap in there, and you are in a terrible spot. So is that something that you guys are really going out of your way to do and differentiate?
Yes, absolutely. I think it was way back when we were exploring different maps, and then we were exploring things like, oh, what if Falstad could fly? Wouldn't that make him totally overpowered on Dragonshire, for example? And we were like, well, yeah, maybe, but that's kind of cool. We really want to see heroes that have really specialized styles and excel at different maps, and then some heroes that maybe aren't as good at that fall away. And we got a lot of maps, we've got some maps coming up that the map team is working on now that really
Diablo map
punches that home. I think Diablo does really well on any map with close quarters, right? You can sort of knock him around, and he's got the bonus now where knocking him into a wall does that bonus stun or bonus damage. I can't remember what it does.
Bonus stun.
Yeah, additional stun. He feels really good ever since you guys changed him. He feels really good.
Yeah.
Like he's been hyper impactful and competitive, and it's just
noticed that.
It's
Kevin,
really
are you proud of your boy?
Oh man, every single time I see him, I'm just like, I mean, I think during Titan Arena, I said like 3 or 4 times, I was like, man, you're making Papa Shampoo proud.
Jared's shaking his head.
I actually, that's an interesting question, I guess, is that I think it's been talked about a couple of times that there was a rework coming out possibly for Diablo to really look at a lot of his talents and everything. But then, you fixed the animations and made it kind of really smooth on how Overpower and Shadow Charge worked, and it seems like he's come back into play, especially with how the rest of the meta changed and how other balance affected other heroes. Is there still out there like a Diablo rework kit that's like just you guys are thinking maybe we don't need to use this right now, or was that possibly what you guys were talking about?
Well, just to clarify,
if you don't want to, I mean, you don't have to say anything.
Yeah, I can't really answer without giving a bigger insight into how we're reading the meta, how we're reading the way that heroes are perceived. Because oftentimes, if we do nothing, people will find something amazing about those heroes. Like I remember when Abathur originally came out, like, wow, this guy's terrible. We did nothing to him for such a long time. And then suddenly Abathur was god tier, and then we had to bring in some nerfs. But so it's really tricky for us to decide, should we rework this? Should we add or remove talents based on what's going on in the community? There are some pretty egregious things that we need to nip in the bud, and we try to identify those and get them as we can. But then there are some things of like, we need to attack some reworks from a design perspective. Like, is this actually bad gameplay? Is this actually hurting the game? And that's where we should start on a rework, not this hero is too powerful, we need to change everything about them, or this hero is not powerful enough, we need to make a major talent revamp. And I think, so I can't speak to exactly on what we're planning for Diablo. Right. I think that it's safe to say that some changes are still coming, but I don't know if we are, given what we're seeing now, that maybe it won't be to the severity that maybe we thought it was going to be.
Okay,
cool.
No, that's a great answer, because I'm glad to hear that you guys aren't like reworking just to work with meta, because I think that's like a big problem, and I think a lot of, especially Jake. I mean, Jake's been with the Smash community for like 1 billion years. They haven't received a single patch for Melee, and yet still like a lot of
tier
things
list
are
has
changing.
evolved so many times,
Yeah,
except for Fox.
Yeah, except for Fox.
But okay, well, you talked about Abathur, and you talked about him not being touched. Then he became god tier, and then you guys nerfed him into the ground to the point where he was buried in ripperoni and cheese.
Oh
Well, you
man,
guys,
I wouldn't say it was the ground.
Wow,
exactly,
Jake pulling out the
but-
big guns.
well, you guys touched on him. You guys gave him some love.
Yeah.
And can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, sure. So the big thing for Abathur is his ultimate abilities were not feeling epic. They weren't feeling powerful anymore. Cutting the heroic ability was necessary from a design and from a technical standpoint, I think. But obviously, it sapped a lot of his power.
I can.
And it
give you
kind
a-
of. Go ahead.
After you. After you.
It kind of rubbed us the wrong way also that the most powerful part about Abathur was probably the most powerful part on another hero, right? So we just want double of that hero. We don't actually care about Abathur. So we kind of wanted to make Abathur more about him and his abilities. So we wanted to boost up the heroic abilities, and I think there was a general feeling that Toxic Nest could use some love, that maybe there are some builds there with more nest focused, like mining certain areas or creating these big like goblin techie zones that maybe you could blow somebody up with, or just general utilitarian with the Vile Nest talent, which I think we increased the slow amount with. I can't remember though. There's so many patch notes.
The damage went from 30 to 50. Like,
That's
I don't know if
significant.
the speed changed.
No.
Oh, okay.
I can give you a bug report on it too.
Oh boy.
Live here on the show.
Well, the Abathur, the second ult is broken at the moment. At least if you read the tooltip for the second one, the level 21, I know you had it up just a second
Oh
ago.
yeah,
Maybe
that
not.
is. We are aware of that one.
Okay.
Okay.
But
and
technically,
then-
it's correct. Like 50% of Infinity is.
it's true.
still
You're right on that one. But the stacks change as well. Like the stacks keep up kind of on the second one. Like you'll start off with a 30 stack one at half health.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bug at least. For
Yeah.
Abathur.
Kev's
We are
just
working
holding
on
back
fixing
as many puns
I
as
love
he can
Abathur.
right now.
Abathur's not a bug.
Okay. Looks like one to me.
That's rude.
Jared, there's another guy that got some love this patch.
Oh yeah.
Murky!
Oh yeah. We've been hearing nonstop.
He's
Why,
good.
Why did you guys break Murky? He didn't do anything to you.
He's good now.
Did you see the
It's-
video? The developer.
I didn't see a video.
Murky?
Oh, I did see the one where
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. I think I know what you're talking about.
Guy with
Yeah.
the infectious laugh. Just
Yeah.
Yeah,
We did
I
watch
saw
that.
that. I remember that. That one was funny. Yeah,
It was-
Murky, he feels
It was
good.
a good laugh, but also we're like, oh god, they hate us, and so we tried to fix it. We know that Murky is. We knew that Murky was. Okay, bad, right? But the problem that we were having is that it's so difficult to balance a hero that that has these weird mechanics. Abathur and Murky, perfect examples of like they're on a razor's edge. Because the way that they interact with the map, the way that they interact with their heroes is such a departure from what we're normally used to dealing with, that if we go too strong, then they're really strong because they break the game in some fundamental ways, and they also frustrate people because why can't we interact with this hero, or how come I keep killing Murky but he keeps coming back? But obviously, if they're too weak, then they're really weak.
Yeah.
Because again, they're not able to do what they're doing. They just kind of have this quirky mechanic about them, and that's the major draw. So I think we're going to continue to look at heroes like Murky and the Lost Vikings and Abathur and any other weird heroes that we're planning to do in the future, and trying to nail down that balance. We'll get better at it, and hopefully we'll get faster at it too.
I mean, you guys say we'll get better at it, but Vikings are phenomenal. I think they're in such a good place, so I think you guys are already getting better at it. So
We may.
props
we may.
there.
Vikings are going to be the new Abathur. Like people just don't realize it's broken.
I yeah, possible.
Are you gonna play the Vikings, Sean?
Maybe.
I played the Vikings for one day, and I just the next day I was like, okay, I got my StarCraft 2 carpal tunnel back. Great.
It's true. It's true. They're
I can only handle a couple of games of them at a time, just before I'm actually
Yeah.
legitimately stressed out.
it's funny. I think about that when we cast tournaments. If somebody plays Vikings multiple games in a row, I'm like, this has got to be strenuous on them, like comparatively.
What? No, come on.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Come
easy for
on.
you to say.
You're a
You've
StarCraft pro
played
gamer.
1,000 years of StarCraft 2.
But even Vikings push their limit, push like what 130, 140 APM. Where
But still, you're playing
you
against
watch
5
someone,
other
like,
people.
Live playing, he's playing with like 350
Okay,
APM.
that's true.
Like, come
That's
on,
true.
guys. Get out of here. Let's stop this.
For us plebeians, for us muggles.
Right. Shows how muggle I am. Harry Potter terms coming out. Okay. There's a lot of other big changes that I just want to touch on really quickly, like Stitches. We'll get to Zebo. Stitches first. Stitches first. Now, yeah, we saw that sweet new animation, but he's seen some big changes, and I think probably the biggest one is the fact that Pulverize went from being a stun to now has a follow-up slow, and
Why?
that changes the hero a lot.
For sure.
Oh.
The reason is just straight up, we can't really have an AoE stun on a 6-second or 8-second cooldown.
That makes sense.
Right? It's really difficult to balance around. And it wasn't even a stun that was. It's a stun that just interrupts you. It's not a
Yeah.
stun that is.
It's not impactful. It's just like, oh, you're
Yeah.
using jugs or like 10,000 cups. No, you're not.
Yeah.
It's
And it was up all the time. That's the big thing. So it's just too powerful. We couldn't justify keeping it around, and like, because people would constantly. It's an auto pick because it just has so much utility and so much awesome power. We'd rather save that power on a ability that's appropriately costed through cooldown or through mana or through conditions. Yeah, it is a bummer, but
Yeah.
that's why.
Kev, you
Makes
wanted to bring up
sense.
Zebo?
Nazebo. I mean, I would assume that this is because like Nazebo's Ravenous Spirit was pretty much like if you got a good Ravenous Spirit, you basically won the game. But I'm not particularly sure on that. They reduced the
Radius.
damage on it and the radius
Just radius, I think.
and special. Oh, sorry. So special toxins was
Specialized
was also
toxin
hit.
got
Yeah.
a big hit. Yeah.
So the Nazebo nerfs. Nazebo is really powerful.
Yeah.
And he's still really powerful because,
Yeah.
and we like that because there is some definite counterplay to Nazebo. If he's Ravenous Spiriting, you can stun him out of it. You can run away from it. Yeah. But what bothered us, first of all, the area of effect. It turned out that it was actually much larger than the art was,
Yeah.
and we thought that. Maybe if we were going to nerf him, that would be a way to nerf him because people were expecting it to match the art anyway. So this would definitely be a nerf, but it wouldn't be a nerf in an unknown way, I guess. It seemed like you were out of range of the spirit, but it was still dealing damage to you.
Speaking of the artwork, do you know if when Kerrigan turns into a bat, if her hitbox shrinks or not? Asked that a lot, but I haven't got an answer on
I
it.
don't know off the top of my head, actually.
Yeah, I figured I'd ask.
If it did, then maybe we should.
Should
That
all-
might make it pretty good.
We've talked about banning it in tournaments because
Yeah.
we
ETC
assume
Master
it
Skin
does.
2 is pretty crazy.
Oh
I
yeah,
might-
that one's broken too.
Myself, I hadn't thought of that, but I will pass that on. I think that is a legitimate concern. The other thing about Nazebo, real quick, is, especially with concerns of specialized toxin, is that there's a lot of damage on him that's mostly hidden. It comes from his trait, so
Yes.
you think you know how much damage he's doing, but he's actually doing way more than it is. So it's hard to gauge when you're in danger, and when you're
Safe.
you may be taking a couple more hits. So I think that's why we chose the nerfs that we did instead of just straight up damage nerfs. Well, we did straight up damage nerf Ravenous Spirit slightly. We changed the scaling of it.
Less scaling, more initial. Yeah.
Yeah, but we wanted to nerf him in a way that would also serve the design purpose of making it clearer to
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
We ever gonna get full control of guard?
Maybe one day. Maybe.
So I'm just curious as to like what's the determining factor, because like Ultralisk for a long time we had no control. Then you guys gave us limited control like a laser drill. Now we have full control over the Ultralisk. It's just kind of like, one step at a time. So is there any like you guys just trying to keep things different and fresh? Is that the idea, or is there like a balance reason?
There's definitely that. We want to keep the abilities different from one another, but obviously we don't want to do it if it means that the ability feels terrible because you can't control it, right? One of our core values here at Blizzard is control is king, and we want to make sure that things feel smooth, which is why we're making changes to Diablo, for example. For Gargantuan, though, the situation is a little bit different. If we made Gargantuan totally controllable, there's actually not a whole lot of difference between Gargantuan and Ravenous Spirit, because you just right-click on somebody. In fact, it might even be better than Ravenous Spirit in some cases.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to see where this goes. We want to see how limited control and sort of a companion to, and sort of a protector of Nazeebo will work, instead of a more offensive Ravenous Spirit. We're trying to differentiate the two heroics
I like
that way.
that.
That's cool.
Actually, I
Yeah,
really like that. And I also
Yeah.
like the new idea that like you hit R and
Right,
like,
the
that's-
control.
that brings about like more of a timing kind of thing. It's timing around what an AI is doing, but I still feel like it's still like a little bit of expertise that's going to come around it.
I think before the Gargantuan would slam and your enemy would walk away, and it's just like great, it's just sitting there taking damage. But now you
Yeah.
have that control over it, and it could be really impactful. So that was
There was a lot of things that felt clunky about it. The AI was really dumb.
Yeah.
The stomp took forever to go off, and he also did. Yeah, so we tried to shape it up and improve it as many ways as we could.
Well, if Kubi was here, he would be complaining about a Nuberex Beetle AI. So I'm just going to do that for him.
That is on our list.
Good, very good.
I will be handling that myself. I promise.
The final thing, really quick, and then we'll let you talk about anything else you like. Is
No.
Go ahead.
Trick Slayer's cracking the whip.
He's cracking the whip.
No.
Yeah,
time
he's
to
cracking
go.
the whip.
Time to
So, John, just I guess before you go, I hear that we're going to be having like a huge Heroes of the Dorm
Yes.
finals on April 26th.
We'll talk about that more.
I
a
assume
lot
you're
later,
going to
but-
be there
I will.
because they said that the devs are going to be there and they're going to be talking to people. That was in the video today.
Awesome.
So, guys, yeah, of course, if you are watching this podcast, you should definitely check out especially if you're in the LA area, because it's free. They said just show up. So you should
That's
definitely
awesome.
go check out the Heroes of the Dorm finals, April 26th. And John will be there. You can ask him all your questions there. You can ask him why, he did a certain thing to a certain favorite hero of yours. And
Thank you.
I think the first time I met John,
John.
I think the first time I met John at BlizzCon, we were all sitting around a table, and somebody was just like, "Yeah, these are a bunch of Heroes devs," and I was like, "Which one of you developed Lily?" And I think John, you said something like, "Oh, I think I did that."
Whoa, I'm not going to take that was. I'll direct you to Dustin Browder for that one.
I think you repointed me to Dustin Browder.
Good.
Yeah.
But that was back when I hated Lily. But anyway, thank you so much, John, for coming onto the show.
Of course.
It's been
Really, thank
absolutely awesome and incredibly insightful as always.
And
It's
he-
always a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Really.
Next time, you gotta stay up past your bedtime a bit, man.
You guys got to convince Trick about that. I'm not sure. Like I think he's jealous of my mad skills.
Yeah.
Mad skill.
Well, before you leave us, any final things you would like to touch on?
Yeah,
Floor
I
is yours.
guess, well, like last time, huge shout out to the dev team. I know I'm speaking here, but it really is. It takes an army to make this game, and everybody's putting in huge amounts of time and effort. So, big props to everybody on the team, and big props to you guys. Congratulations on your award,
Thank you.
Thank you.
and we love the show.
Thank you.
No, it means a lot. It really does.
Us and
Thank
the
you.
community, that we really appreciate how open you are with the community too, and going on a wonderful show like this.
Yeah, the transparency that's coming from Blizzard is probably like the best transparency I think I've seen from any company for any game I can think of.
I think we're learning. We're definitely learning.
It's awesome.
Blizzard is sentience. Good. Sentient, aye.
All right.
All right, John.
All right.
Well,
Yep.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yep. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, John.
And
See ya.
guys, yep, we're gonna run to a quick commercial break. So once again, thank you for coming out to our show. We will be back in just a few minutes, resuming the discussion on the patch notes, talking more about Heroes of the Dorm, and all that good stuff. So stay tuned.